Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the side event on the technology mechanism. Uh, Firstly, it's nice to be in a slightly warmer room, and I think as it gets later on today, it's good to be in this room, all of us together, and we won't get too cold. Sometimes it gets a little bit cold in the evening. My name is Ashley Lascelles. I'm going to be introducing the speakers today. We've got a great panel here today to talk about the technology mechanism. We're talking about Technology Executive Committee and the Climate Technology Centre Network under the convention. I think it's a very interesting presentation to hear what's been happening in 2016, but I don't want to speak too much. We've got a lot of great speakers here, and without further ado, I'll pass the word to Richard Kinley, the Deputy Executive Secretary, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Asher. I'm very happy to be here tonight and to welcome you to this side event about what has been achieved in 2016, which I think is pretty impressive, actually, not only in technology, but more widely, where we've seen huge steps forward in climate action and in other related areas. My starting point for the brief things I wanted to say this evening were really to begin with the Paris Agreement, which for me is a fundamentally transformative or even a revolutionary document, a vision for the future. But the more I think about it, the more I appreciate that achieving the ambitious goals that are in this treaty is not only not going to be easy, it's going to be a Herculean task. And it's going to take decades of effort to turn around this economic model of 2 centuries based on fossil fuels and the depletion of nature or nature-based resources, and to put us all our societies on a more sustainable path in countries, for people, for humanity. But you who work in the technology sector and are involved in technology issues have a fundamentally important role to play, because this is not going to happen without change and innovation and indeed a technology revolution, so that the world does get onto a low emission and climate resilient sustainable development path. It's true that we have had much good news in the last couple of years in terms of energy technologies. They're now widely commercially available and being deployed in a much more aggressive way. But frankly, this is not nearly enough. We need to scale up and accelerate this technology revolution beyond anything that we've contemplated, not only in energy, but in buildings, in transport, in IT. The scale of societal change that we're looking for, change for the good, change for the better, for better societies around the world, is really quite impressive. So in this vein, the far-sighted parties that we have in this process set up the technology mechanism in 2010 with its 2 arms, the CTCN and the TEC. You'll be hearing from those 2 arms in much more depth in just a few minutes. But I think everyone involved in technology can take a great deal of satisfaction from the fact that at the end of 2016, we can say that the technology mechanism is really fully operational and responding to countries' needs. The CTCN has received 100 requests last year and is already actioning these. We know as well that the demand is growing, which means that this is a valuable tool and a valuable mechanism. It provides a free service, it has quick response time, and it is already turning out or completing its first actions on the requests. The Technology Executive Committee is a very important arm of this body as well. It's more reflective, more policy-oriented, and it is advancing work on a number of policy domains: South-South cooperation, climate technology financing, innovation. And I was happy in particular to see that this year guidance emerged for developing countries in how to prepare projects that could facilitate action on prioritized technologies. So I think in conclusion, we can say safely at the end of this year, 2016, that the technology mechanism is delivering results, and in a very timely way. But one cannot rest on one's laurels. As I was saying at the outset, the scale of change and transformation that is required is very significant. The needs of countries for support is not to be understated, and especially when one begins to look at how we can move quickly now to act on and operationalize the nationally determined contributions. So all that to say, we have in the technology mechanism the tools to help advance this transformation, and we really though now need to see ways that we can scale up and accelerate this transformation. And the technology community is going to have a fundamentally important role in making this transformation a reality. So I wish you a great conversation this evening, two-way conversation, and hope that we see by the end of this conference results coming out of the COP, the CMP, and to a certain extent the CMA that will advance the technology agenda. Thank you, Asha.
Thank you, Richard, for bringing this into the broader context of what we're doing in terms of supporting the implementation also of the Paris Agreement. I understand you've got a very busy schedule, so we do thank you for your time very much. We'll now move on to the next speaker, which is the chair of the tech, Dudu. I was going to try to pronounce your last name, and I give apologies, but let me give it a go. Dudu Nlengefwa Masina, who's the chair of the Technology Executive Committee, who will provide an update on the activities and performance of the tech in 2016. Just one moment.
Thank you very much, Aisha. It was not until I first traveled, which was to your home country, Australia, difficult to pronounce, and yeah, but it's part of the realities that we face. It's Tlengetwa Masina. Yes, and it's my pleasure today to provide an update on the performances and activities of the tech in 2016 in my capacity as the chair of the tech. Allow me to highlight what I will talk about today, which will cover what an overview of the Technology Executive Committee, its rolling work plan for 2016 to 2018, which was adopted early on this year, and the key achievements in 2016, our response to the COP21 mandates and stakeholder engagement on 2017 and beyond. Note that the information that I will talk about today may be found in the text new brochure for 2016, which can be downloaded on the link that we see on the screen. Let me briefly explain our mandates and work. The tech is the policy arm of the technology mechanism, which has already been said that was established in 2010. And as such, its general mandate is to provide support to countries by providing policy recommendations and facilitating technology cooperation in order to support country efforts to enhance climate technology development and transfer. It consists of 20 members, which you can see on the screen, which are both from developed and developing countries. And our key outputs include key messages for policies on climate technology development and transfer, which can also be found on our TTClear website. Our mandates, we on the screen see an overview of the mandates, and COP gave us a series of functions, and it also tasks us to further further implementing the technology transfer framework, which was taking over from what was there previously. And I would like to highlight that through the Paris Agreement, parties reiterated their trust in the technology mechanism and requested it to serve the Paris Agreement. Parties also requested the tech to enhance its efforts to scale up action on technology development and transfer, and work together with other convention bodies and including non-state stakeholders in supporting the implementation of the agreement. In trying to fulfill this mandate, we then worked on our 2016 rolling work plan. And as such, this year has been a very busy year for us. Following the adoption of the Paris Agreement, we worked to ensure effective support for countries in this new era of ambition. We agreed on the work plan for 2016 to 2018, which is a rolling work plan through which we will respond to the mandates from the Paris Agreement. In this context, we will continue to advance work on technology research, development, and demonstration, and contribute to mitigation and adaptation related technical, and we also contributed to the mitigation and adaptation related technical examination processes. Our achievements in 2016, we had structured our work around the key thematic areas, which you can see on the screen. And some of the achievements are along these areas, and I would like to provide further details on some of the in the following slides. I will probably not go into the details. I hope you have enough time to just have a brief look of these areas where we worked on climate technology financing, on mitigation technologies, on TNAs and adaptation technologies, where we focused on South-South and triangular cooperation, particularly with regards to adaptation, and also other work which includes the joint annual report, which is being considered during this COP. And now going into further details, the first element, which we held a thematic dialogue on enablers for barriers on South-South cooperation on technologies for adaptation. We organized the dialogue to deepen understanding on South-South cooperation. Thank you. And share country experiences on such efforts. This event was attended by the tech members and more than 40 stakeholders, which included the Adaptation Committee, members and representatives of governments, United Nations organization, intergovernmental organization, and non-governmental organization. 9 experts gave presentations on different aspects of South-South cooperation. Building on the dialogue's outcomes, the tech decided to undertake further work on South-South cooperation to support parties in advancing such efforts. One of the key messages that we came up with as a result of this was inviting parties to explore potential opportunities offered by South-South cooperation to help countries implement their NAPs and NDCs. Another activity that we undertook this year was in collaboration with the CTCN, the GCF, and the GEF, where we undertook consultations on linkages between the technology mechanism and the financial mechanism. As part of these consultations, we collaborated together and jointly organized a workshop which was held in May this year. And we also prepared key messages in this regard on climate technology financing, which included one whereby we welcomed the increased engagement between the GCF and the CTCN, especially through the readiness program and the project preparatory facility. Another activity resulted in a key publication, which we worked with in collaboration with UNFCCC with the UNFCCC partnership, whereby we developed guidance to help developing countries prepare their TAPs, that is technology action plans that are going to be ultimately implemented. As we are going into the Paris Agreement, implementation is of essence. So we believe that when we developed this guidance to improve the outcomes of the TNAs through these steps, we are moving a step closer towards implementation. And then we prepared in this regard key messages, one of which we recommended the enhancements of financial, technical, and capacity building to support the implementations of the technology action plans and updating of the TNAs. And we believe that it is critical for TNAs to be continuously updated, because as they also relate to as we are also encouraging them to be used to support the implementations of INDC, and we expect that INDC are going to be revised every 5 years. Then there is need to then revise the TNAs to make sure that they keep up with the implementation that we need to see going on. And then with regards to responding to the mandates of COP21, that 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 with regards to the mandates from COP21, we had the technology mechanism and financial mechanism linkages, and then we also worked on climate technology RD&D, and then we also continue to work on topics for the future of technology expert meetings, particularly on mitigation. Although we are also working together with the adaptation committee with regards to the terms on adaptation. As in previous years, the tech reached out to multiple stakeholders from inside and outside the convention. As a result, a wide range of technology stakeholders participated in the tech's work and contributed to its outcomes. In particular, let me highlight the fact that all of our task forces have representations from members from different observer constituencies, and this provide valuable input to our work. Let me take the opportunity once again to thank all the institutions and stakeholders that have engaged with us in our work during 2016, and we look forward to further collaboration during the subsequent years, in particular 2017. Regarding our work in 2017, you will observe that we intend to undertake further work on adaptation, whereby we look to further the work that we have started on South-South cooperation. And we also intend to continue working on TNA, whereby we will look at the methodology for the monitoring of TNA results. And with regards to financing, to finance, we intend to update the PSP evaluation report. And on the mitigation front, we are going to hold a thematic dialogue on the industrial energy efficiency. And with regards to innovation, we intend to hold a special event on innovation and INDC, which is scheduled for the May session. And then we also continue to work on enabling environments where we are going to look at mapping TNAs, NDCs, and CTCN requests. And then we are going to continue working with our stakeholder engagement from different fronts, including through, as we have already said, working with the observer organizations in continuing our work. Let me suggest now as a way forward to take away from this presentation the following messages. We can take away the fact that in 2016, the tech analyzed key policy issues that relate to technology development and transfer. We further developed key messages and recommendations and guidance to support countries in accelerating actions, which can also be found in the joint annual report, which we presented to the COP for the consideration of the parties. And we have also responded to the mandates on linkages between technology mechanism and the financial mechanism in collaboration with the CTCN and the implementing and the entities of the financial mechanism. And we will continue to increase our efforts to support parties in accelerating implementation as we continue working in the Paris Agreement era. And in conclusion, I would like to highlight that, okay, no, I'll continue. Sorry, I'm now trying to repeat myself. I covered that, but we look forward to engaging in a fruitful discussion with you during this event, and also to continue working with you wherever possible as we continue meeting, particularly for those who are able to participate as observers during our sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dudu. And just to highlight again that the tech's key messages that it prepared this year in the areas of climate technology financing, South-South cooperation for adaptation technologies, and also technology needs assessments may be found in the brochure and also on the website of TT Clear, and we'll provide that link at a later stage. Now it's time to hear from the other arm of the technology mechanism, the Climate Technology Centre Network. We have two presentations here. One from the chair of the advisory board of the CTCN, Mr. Spencer Thomas, and then also from the director of the CTCN, Mr. Jukka Wakasinen. Apologies, Jukka.
Just Jukka.
Jukka's good, saves me. So I'll set up those presentations and pass it across to you.
Good evening to everyone. I bring greetings from the advisory board of the CTCN. I think there are several members in the audience. We're happy to have you here this evening on this issue. Of course, Yuka will follow me, so of course the hard work is for Yuka, so I will just say a few words. And Richard have already said much of what I wanted to say. I agree with everything that Richard had just said about the CTCN and the work of the CTCN. So, in terms of going forward, I think it is very clear the mandate that was received in 2010 from the CTCN. That was a very clear mandate. And then that was reinforced in Paris last year. We have a reinforced mandate. In fact, I believe that the technology mechanism as a whole was very popular in the Paris Agreement. Several mentioned and directly linked to NDC implementation and otherwise. So this is the first point, that we have a lot of work to do. The mandate is very clear and reinforced by the Paris Agreement. There are some key elements in the Paris Agreement which I think worth mentioning. Of course, the technical expert process, meeting process, the linkages with the financial mechanism, which Dudu has already mentioned, so I wouldn't want to go over. The support for RD&D, and again, the tech is leading on this. We are part of the task force on RD&D, and of course, the technology framework that we are working on at this present COP. So these are four major areas of focus in the Paris Agreement. In terms of the advisory board, just to indicate that currently we are working in these three major areas. Of course, as I said, the task force on RD&D, now we collapsing with the tech, which I think is a very good collaboration there, and we thank the tech for this work. Also, that the quantification of technical assistance, as mentioned by Richard, many technical assistance have already been completed, and we are looking now to see what is the impact. We have been thinking and working with the GCF on this issue. We heard the words impact. We heard the words paradigm shift. We heard the words national needs, ownership, and from the Green Climate Fund. And we are looking at all those technical assistance projects that have been done by the CTCN is measured against some of those impacts. So we are looking at, the board is looking at that very carefully. And the third major area for the board's work now is the financial sustainability of the CTCN and the operations. We, again, as we indicated, the requests are increasing on a daily basis. So we need to be able to be in a capacity to take care of those issues. On the technology framework, particularly from the Paris Agreement, we looked at the submissions from the parties, and these are some of the major issues that were raised by the parties. First, we must build on the gains already done by the CTCN. This was particularly encouraging for the advisory board members, and I think we want to be in a position to do that. The strengthening of the NDEs and the country-led coordination is another very critical area which the parties have indicated that we need to put some focus on. Support from the financial mechanism for CTCN activities, another very critical area. And strengthening the CTCN to deliver on the NDCs, the TNAs, the TAPs, the NAPs, the NAMAs, whatever, wherever the technology is concerned. So I think we need to ensure that it's CTCN and the whole network is strengthened to do that. And of course, building capacities for climate-related technologies. And finally, the engagement of the private sector. These were some of the major concerns raised by parties in the submissions, and we are working on this as we go forward, including in this meeting. In terms of linkages with the financial mechanism, this was critical, and again, a lot of work has been done. We heard from the tech what have been done here. We're just coming from a meeting of all the bodies with the GCF and GEF, and some good conclusions come out of this meeting, which you will hear about later. But clearly, we think that the meetings between the bodies are very, very critical. We have indicated some very clear meetings here. In particular, Dudu and I participated in the last board meeting of the GCF, and I think we had some very useful outcomes there. Also, the matching of the CTN strengths and the structure is also very important. And the collaborative framework, especially with the readiness project, the preparatory facility, and the direct access modalities. These are some of the key areas where we feel that the linkages can be further strengthened. The meeting today also went over some of these, and information sharing, expertise sharing, um, information and involvement in the regional structural dialogue, the thematic task force. All of these issues are areas where we might want to look at joint meetings, and even the terms are areas where we might want to link and the collaboration between the two mechanisms. But at which I mentioned to you, the last board meeting of the Green Climate Fund, these are 5 of the critical areas that we brought to the table. The CTCN technical assistance is a basis for collaboration and cooperation between the two bodies, in particular in the areas of the readiness and the facility, and also the direct access. There must be closer relationship between the NDE for technology development and transfer and the NDA in relation to the Green Climate Fund. And the issue relating to the implementation of the TAPs, the NAPs, whatever, again, and wherever the technology is important for that, it should be included. Collaboration of the technology and R&D, which will be also mentioned, and of course the financing issue. These were all richly received by the board, and I think there is a good mechanism to further develop areas in this area. And looking forward then, I think we need to recognize the strong mandate that we got from the COP and also from the Paris Agreement. We need to match the needs, the involvement of the private sector, the enhanced linkages, which I think is very critical, the collaboration with the GEF and the GCF, and of course, the sustainability aspects to ensure that we can adequately service the requests that comes from developing countries for a low carbon future. Thank you very much.
So good evening. Distinguished nationally designated entities of technology development and transfer, like it is defined already in Bali, actually. This is the meeting for you. This is the meeting to share now the report of the office of you, that means our service, and then discuss about future. I think that we have come to the situation where after Paris, this is the first COP where implementation is coming as important, even more important than negotiations further and further of this convention. And that's why I see that the room is full, and I'm very happy. I expected it also. So here we start. I give you a snapshot of what we have done. It might be quite many slides, but I try to go them through very, very quickly. This just tells that we have a report. It's an annual report which has been now printed to you, and it is available. I hope Karina Larsen here makes it available for you, those who want to look at much more detail. It's a little booklet telling our story this year. Yes, let's start with the positive messages, and that is everybody knows now that the world is changing. The kind of looking at the metaphor of Titanic, that the rudder has been already turned, and it will turn, and nobody can contest that the technologies, some of them are actually coming into parity and even better economically than the fossil alternatives, and there we are. We just have to accelerate this speed, and indeed there is still that gap. Our host agency, the UN Environment, has just published the latest gap report, and then you see that it's still the same fact: 12 to 14 gigatons we have to work more for in order to get that target which we have agreed on 2 Celsius, and much less than that 2 Celsius. We support all of that deployment, all of that deployment of technologies which make that possible. We have 155 country focal points at the moment, so designated entities, and we have 250 expert strong institutions supporting us in this work. Indeed, a great number of requests from developing country governments and other entities from developing countries through their national entities have arrived to the tables of CTCN offices in order that we could bring that services which you are requiring to us. And a great number of countries have contributed to that. That means that, as you see here, many countries have submitted many or several requests, because we understand that the needs are huge, and there are needs on adaptation, on mitigation. This tells about a bit of what kind of sectors we are getting those technical assistance requests from on mitigation and adaptation. But I want to say here that we are not classifying technology sectors or themes which you are bringing to us. You are this is totally country-driven service process. You will decide on which area of climate technology you would wish us to assist you, and what level, whether it's a policy or whether it's a detailed planning level. The history of the CTCN started actually in early 2014, so we are 2.5 years old now. And indeed, the first year went a bit of kind of waiting that whether the countries realized that we are existing there. And we were desperately waiting the first requests to come in, and we were so happy that some countries noticed us. We went to the regions, so we ran regional meetings, calling NDEs of the regions and told them that this service is there, and advertised us also, of course, in many other international meetings and, of course, in the convention. And here you see that it started to bear fruit last year. So a year ago, the countries have really found out us, and then this pace of receiving 1 or 2 or even 3 requests per week has now going on for many months. And what we are happy for is that actually we have been even concluded some of the technical assistance projects. You know that this government business, you know, the trying to serve governments with the expert institutions, finding the expertise and of course the money resources for it, and the government is actually a bit more lengthy business than I thought when I came to office. But yes, indeed, we have concluded something. We know now how to do it, and I hope that the pace will accelerate. As you see here from the black and green, half of the technical requests which you have put to us are in the kind of pretty detailed process of either already final preparations or implementation. And then indeed the other half are still on the review. And here I have to mention that yes, indeed, one factor is indeed that we have to find the suitable financing for that technical assistance. All the monies are not there, and some mechanisms are needed in order to kind of use fully all the resources we have. So it takes a bit of time, but nevertheless we are there strongly on operation. This tells a nice story of Africa, that Africa has really been active and brought to us many very good requests to be serving. It might have been that when we realized that many African countries, especially least developed countries, didn't have resources to formulate their requests to us, we did initiate a so-called incubator program, which means that we put a bit of efforts to go to those countries and work with them that what could be the best kind of priority questions to GTC. And this has bared that fruit that Africa has brought in most of the technical assistance requests, and fair so. I think that this is exactly why why GTCN was established in the first place. Looking a bit of what kind of requests, you see that we are following strictly or carefully that whether the balance with adaptation and mitigation is there. It is, the balance is there. But we have also found that many technical requests are actually cross-sectoral. That means that they are in such a phase of need assessment or prioritization that we still don't know whether it's adaptation or mitigation. And many adaptation actually adaptation actions include mitigation components and vice versa. So you see here that it's not so easily put into half and half. Next one. On the types, you see on both on what kind of assistance we can and we are giving to the countries. And you see how many different nature of technical interventions or assistant interventions we are rendering. That means that we are on the policy level. Of course, as you see, we are helping technology identification and selection. We do feasibility studies. We are also giving training, awareness raising, and sharing experiences. Mainly the governments have been asking this, that you see that the national level assistance is the kind of majority, but also cities and communities have come up to us through their national entities, and we are actually helping them with technical assistance. So it is not excluding sub-national entities to come, as long as it is coming through the national entity. On the sectors, this is totally, as I said, that we have not selected these sectors. These has come from the countries, and here we are in this situation today. On mitigation, it is evidently that there is a renewable and energy efficiency are predominant, but also we have a technical assistance request coming from the waste management sector and other sectors, industry and transport. On adaptation, agriculture and forestry, water management and early warning systems seem to be those which the countries feel that are most important to bring to our services. So we have heard the Paris well. That means that when we were established, we didn't talk that time nationally determined contributions. That was not there yet, but we have heard the parties and countries that we should always bear in mind that our work together will contribute to and have a real impact and input to the nationally determined contributions and their implementation. As well as the other one is that we have to always look that our technical assistance will end with some kind of fundable, bankable or implementable result. If it only is a kind of academic practice which is coming on, left on the shelf of some government office, we have failed together. So that is important. I'm coming back to it. I just reiterate that some key sectors have stood up from here: early warning system, industrial energy efficiency, and waste to energy in our work. There are some just very short examples of some of those which we are almost concluded. In Colombia, we helped the National Adaptation Monitoring System, designing early warning systems and having roadmap on scaling up financing and so on. That was one of the earliest one, very, very good technical assistance project, which has resulted into a new guidebook, which can be then replicated and disseminated to other countries and regions. This was a pretty interesting technical assistance where actually we were helping on bringing a technological and technical quality to a proposal, investment proposal to change the district heating system into the biomass-based system and being able to qualify for a loan from the development bank. This might be one of the most interesting, where 13 West African countries together have requested CTCN to support a gender-specific climate resilient energy system. And there, indeed, we are dealing with very important issue of all of our work, that how to secure and ensure that our technical assistance is positively affecting those groups which are mostly affected of climate change and even also our climate actions. And therefore, the voice of women here is paramountly important, and to get that awareness, to get those tools which are bringing that voice up is of importance, and we are very happy of this kind of assistance request from West Africa. And indeed, in Ghana, again, combining two most important issues, climate change and the food production, the nexus of food, water, and agriculture is also an interesting way of using CTC and technical assistance. These are just a snapshot of some of the cases. In Senegal, we are dealing with the kind of climate-wise way of planning new industrial activities, new industrial zones. That means that we are looking at all the possibilities to save energy and reduce the greenhouse gases and so on. And here again in Vietnam, we are dealing with their request on how to best use the residuals of the rice cultivation and rice agriculture, and how to use the best way of that waste into the energy. As Spencer Thomas told, that advisory board has been very interested in looking at, are we having real impact? Is our technical assistance resulting to concrete impacts in the countries? And what we did then, we tried to display that very clearly in our kind of leaflets. We have taken all of our technical assistance projects and looked at them, analyzed them on that particular perspective. And we have these available for you, which says that intended impacts of the CTC and technical assistance. That means that if the countries, if the governments and the business sector and the cities will take that technical advice which we are giving through these processes seriously and put them into actions, if the financial instruments are used, then indeed these impacts are coming. Of course, we are not anymore maybe there, we are only giving technical assistance, but this is our intention, and this is our firm belief that governments are using this resource and this service wisely and to full. Yeah, we have only minute time, so just to say that yes, indeed, we are following the Sustainable Development Goals. It means that we are always looking at which other goals we are contributing to, while of course contributing fully to the climate goal 13, but also there are other goals which we are also fulfilling same time when we are helping the countries. One word of capacity building, that almost all our technical assistance includes capacity building. That means that that's already is a strong capacity building element in our work, but also we have separate and specific capacity building efforts like webinars, thematically focused learning, our incubator program, which I said already, secondment program. We are inviting young professionals into our offices to learn and contribute on our work, and of course our regional meetings and forums. And here you see also the spread of our regional forums where we have already been conducting, and let's say that we are going to continue with these regional forums together maybe with some other bodies of convention. One interesting body, of course, to work with with the regional forums is Green Climate Fund, as they are also organizing regional meetings, whether we could put together these institutions and also national offices and authorities, NDAs, NDEs. On the network, CTCN has got, as I said, 250 plus networks members from 50 countries so far. I see here from the map that we still need to advertise ourselves more in Africa so that we can get also local expertise into the system. And of course, there is a map of our consortium partners. how and which are the network members at the moment? You see that the private sector is pretty strong. Almost 70 institutions are private institutions, private sector entities, and these are those which we wish that they join in with implementing the technical assistance projects of the CTCN. And that we are doing with the United Nations rules procurement system, that we are putting bids out. We are calling our network members to come and tell their interest that they would like to come with us. And then we are going to select the best of them to serve the countries. But as important maybe is also that the big amount of research and academic institutions which have voluntarily enrolled in our network. We need to use this resource also fully, and we are planning different meetings with the research and academic institutions, for example, to give us the kind of insights of the issue which is coming here very strongly, that what it is how to kind of work more on collaborative research and development between the developed and developing countries, or among the developing countries. How do we do it? Who has been doing? I think that our 51 institutions have got a very good story to tell, and we are ready to kind of bring that story to the parties. And then finally, looking forward, yes, indeed, we are implementing eagerly Paris mandate. We also understand that developing country needs to be matched with the private sector solutions, because the private sector at the end of the day is the one which provides the technologies, which brings that market of new technologies into the developing countries. And we need to match the supplier side with those who are in need. And then indeed, also our chairman already mentioned about the strong linkages with financial mechanisms, making mutually beneficial kind of arrangements between technology mechanism and financial mechanism. So I think that was the end of my exhaustive lesson. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jukka. And now it's time to hear from the other side, from the recipient country. And we're very fortunate to have here Mr. Elisha Moyo, who is the NDE, the National Designated Entity for Zimbabwe, who's going to talk about his experiences interacting with the CTCN.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. I think we'll share on the experiences we had with CTCN for the past 16 months. The National Focal Point appointed the National Designated Entity in June. And then we had the NDE Forum in Tanzania. So much of my presentation is going to speak about how we have interacted with CTCN. And I've put a very busy first slide showing our president signing the Paris Agreement in April, where we're drawing part of our technical assistance, but looking at some of the pictures, like the top left picture showing a banana plantation that was destroyed by hailstorm, some of the emissions from the agricultural sector, some of the stakeholder interaction. My outline, I'll speak about the background, then the technical assistance, the development process and the submission, the national coordination and interaction with the CTCN. In case there are some NDEs who are yet to submit requests, the summary of our first technical assistance requests and reflections on how the process can be enhanced, and then conclude. So Zimbabwe, just like many developing countries, INDCs require quite a couple of billions of dollars, and these will go towards technology in its broadest sense, be the equipment, the knowledge, the skills. And for us, the couple of billions, we need to ensure and to attain resilience in the agricultural sector and to pursue a low carbon pathway in the energy sector. And this is a summary really of the National Climate Change Response Strategy, the technology needs assessments, and various documents and analysis which have been done in the country. And all these require substantial investment into appropriate means of implementation, especially appropriate technology and finance. And let me mention that much of this may need to be mobilized externally. And like I mentioned, we had our NDE nominated some 16 months ago, and that's the case with most of the developing countries. And upon the nomination and after the NDE forum, in our case as Zimbabwe, we developed the media brief, which we circulated to all the media outlets and all our contacts, calling for requests from different possible proponents. We engaged in an iterative process where we're sharing the country needs in response to the call and what CTCN deems legible. We shared the templates, the legibility criteria, and worked with constituted what we called a think tank to look at these before we submit to CTCN for national prioritization, as well as whether they mitigate and adapt to the issues of climate. And for Zimbabwe, we submitted 3 requests. The first one being developing a climate smart agricultural manual or curricula for the agricultural education and extension workers, because we've been talking about climate smart agriculture, but without a basis to say what really needs to be done in that. And it was a trust which applied with linking with the NDE. We also submitted a request for piloting rapid uptake of industrial energy efficiency and efficient water utilization in selected sectors in Zimbabwe. Our third was upon realizing that we have quite a number of plans and strategies, but we don't know how to translate maybe those into bankable projects. So we sought capacity on project planning, development, management, implementation, and translation of strategies and policies into bankable investments. And this was applied by the ND, which is the Climate Change Management Department. And the last we just submitted on the 30th of October. It's a multinational request by 10 SADC countries, including of Zimbabwe, and we're assisting in the coordination. And in less than 2 weeks, I'm glad to share also that that request has been responded to and prioritized thanks to the CTCN Secretariat. We'll move forward. I'll share a bit about the national coordination interaction with CTCN. There's been quite a lot of time and effort which has been invested in coordinating internally with stakeholders, and it's a whole lot of work where you have to share the country priorities. You have to align at times expectations, what is possible, what is not possible, and this require quite a bit of some resources. But also our interaction with CTCN and our experience with the form and submission form, it has been fairly simple. And they respond and mention that within 10 days, we respond to your requests. And indeed, they've been responding within 10 days, which is really commendable. And the first step after a response normally is the response planning, where we link up with the technology manager assigned with applicant, key beneficiaries, NDE. We finalize on the priorities, needs, roles, and responsibility, and how we're going to implement the request. And so far, the implementation spell of the first project has been going on well. I'll speak a bit about the first request, just to give more flesh. The developing of a climate smart agriculture manual in Zimbabwe for university level and professional level education in Zimbabwe emanates from the fact that about 80% of our rural population depend on rain-fed agriculture. And we wanted the agricultural sector to adapt to the changes in climate and to have adequate knowledge and training on climate change. Because we wanted to move from just saying climate is changing, you need to adapt, but to say how do you adapt and how do you reduce the greenhouse gases also from the agricultural sector. And that curricula is being developed by both external experts and working together with local experts so that we retain part of the capacity in the country as well. And we're going to have training of trainers for the extension workers and for the lecturers in different agricultural colleges on the best practices for climate smart agriculture. in Zimbabwe and with the view of the changes in climate. And hopefully this will strengthen the climate resilience of the population and the sector, agricultural sector, and increase expertise and standards for climate smart agriculture. We also hope that the pairing of the experts who are developing this from international and local will also mean that there will be capacity building within our local experts as well in technology transfer. And my possibly last slide on some of the things that we think can assist moving forward. We feel that there's need for more linkages between CTC and the finance mechanism. I think this has been highlighted. For Zimbabwe, our institution happened to be the NDA for Green Climate Fund, and we've realized that there's often a need for feasibility studies and a lot of information to feed into GCF projects. And we realize that Citizen can assist in generating this information, which then makes the proposal submittable, so to speak. And we also know that the technical assistance can unlock other resources. Like in the case of our first requests, we got complementary support from VUNA, which will add more and do more things than those which are covered by the technical assistance. But we also noted that there's need to strengthen and capacitate the national designated entity to undertake the oversight role in climate technology. We believe that this institutional support will assist in coordination, because at times you have to talk about CTCN, you have to convene stakeholders, you have to monitor even the technical assistance that is being offered. And most of the developed countries, they lack some of the very basic means to do that, be it a computer, internet, or to move from point A to point B. And we feel that maybe if we have maybe part of the technical assistance is very small component going towards that, or a different annual activity-based allocation, maybe along the ozone protocol framework can assist. And also we feel that that's strengthening of the NDEs may need to be also in strategic engagements, be it at COP or different meetings, to identify opportunities, because some of the NDEs, they're also not in the UNFCCC focal points and may be distant from the negotiations and related issues. We feel, in conclusion, that without much support, we'll concentrate on low-hanging fruits. And the danger of concentrating on low-hanging fruits is that you leave those difficult to reach. And at times, those are the ones that require support. And technology, together with science and innovation, is currently the second most divider after education. And we hope through CTCN, something can be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. And very interesting to hear, gives us a lot of food for thought there, not to focus on the low-hanging fruit in the food sense as well. I'm just going to give a very brief presentation before we go to questions to look at a little bit at how we can enhance information sharing and to highlight some of the work that the Secretariat's done on upgrading TT Clear, which is the Secretariat's website for climate technology. I wanted to firstly highlight some global trends that, and this has been provided by Microsoft, about where we're seeing internet usage through domains going around the globe. And you can see there that in 2020, it's estimated that the biggest users of the internet will be China, and we can imagine that quite clearly, India, but you can also see, for instance, in Africa and in Latin America, how much this is going to grow, and that the South is going to dominate the usage of the internet. So it's going to become the fundamental medium for transferring of information. And we have to understand how we can ensure that this, we provide effective transfer of information through the internet. Another brief statistic on predictions of world internet users, we can see in 2010 that only 26% of the world is connected online, while in 2020 we can see that that'll move to 66% of the global population. So we're talking about 4 to 5 billion people using the internet by 2020, and it's estimated that's more than 3.5 billion using it through mobile phones. So internet is becoming the global, the medium for global information exchange. How can we enhance communication on climate technology? And we've been thinking about that within the Secretariat. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this website. This is the current website we have for TT Clear, it's called, which is the Secretariat website for climate technology. We did a survey before Paris last year, and the results came back from a public survey that although the website has very high quality information, often it's quite hard to find. You can't use it on a mobile phone, you can't use it on a tablet. So it's understanding how we can make this more effective, seeing where we're going in the future in terms of usage and trends. This is where we've moved to now. This is not public yet, but will be public before the end of the year. And the intention of this new website is to really bring the information, the rich sources of information that we're seeing both from the tech into CTCN, to collaborate very strongly with the knowledge management system of the CTCN, which has lots of rich information as well, and to provide a gateway for climate technology under the convention. There's two areas I'll highlight today. We will have a launch later in the year and invite you also to have a further look. The two areas that I'd like to highlight, the first one is a page called Projects Pipeline. And it's through this area that we're going to showcase the outcomes from the technology needs assessment process. Countries that are undertaking TNAs as an output have technology action plans, TAPs, and often project ideas. And these project ideas or action plans are hidden away in the country report. The focus is to make these more prominent by putting them into an easy to search portal where you can search for these action plans and see where countries are seeking support for technology. Another area that we're going to develop, which is not currently available, is the policies that the Technology Executive Committee is undertaking. The tech prepares key messages, which Dudu highlighted before. And these are hidden away in the annex of the joint annual report to the COP. They're not very accessible to the policymakers who would most likely or be most interested in looking at these. So it's about bringing these more accessible to those who would probably be interested to look at them. That's my very short presentation. 3 messages here. Online communication is the future. That's a given, of course. But looking at these numbers, these trends, it's quite astounding to see how much this global divide on the internet will no longer be such a situation. TT Clear, if you're not aware of it, it's the home for UNFCCC Technology. We collaborate very closely with the knowledge management system of the CTCN and be prepared and to see the new TT Clear coming out in December 2016. With that, thank you very much. And I'd now like to open the floor for questions to the CTCN, to Mr. Elisha Moyo, and also to Dudu on the work that we've been seeing of the technology mechanism in 2016. So the floor is open. We have a microphone as well for those at the back. We'll take one at the back here on the left, and then one down here, the gentleman in the front.
I'd like to appreciate the presentations that have been made by the CN, the tech, and the NDA. My name is Ben Makai. I'm coming from Zambia. I actually happen to be the NDE for Zambia. My question goes to the director for CTCN regarding what Mr. Moyo had highlighted in his conclusion, especially on the issue of setting up institutional framework. I think what I've experienced, like in Zambia, what we are experiencing is the issue of not having an allocation to assist us to become operational before we start now processing applications for technical assistance from CTCN. due to different financial challenges. So you would find that you'd need to maybe hold a stakeholder meeting, but you do not have that because remember, CTCN does not provide any support in that regard before you start accessing processing the applications. So my question now is that what is CTCN doing about that? Because I believe that most of the NDs would be facing a similar situation. Because I believe that if that is put in place, it will help accelerate the process of submitting applications. Thank you.
You can let me take 3 questions first.
Yeah.
We'll take a few. There's a gentleman at the front here in the white shirt. And then we've got a lady at the front here. We'll take these 3 and then we'll go over it again with another group.
Thank you. First of all, congratulations for the presentations. They were very thorough. They gave us a lot to understand. And my name is Yannis Sipouridis. I come from Greece, and I'm here from the Global Wind Energy Council. I'd like to take the idea, the paradigm of the low-hanging fruit, which I found very interesting. All these plans that you have set out are very well, but if you put the dimension of time and the difficult and the high-hanging fruits, won't we reach those high-hanging fruits in time to meet the climate goals? Because I mean, it's very nice what you say, but I'm afraid that it will take time to move ahead and reach the high-hanging fruits. So I'd like to hear what you think of that.
And the final, if we could pass the microphone to the lady in the middle.
Hi, thank you very much. Catherine Romanek from the University of Texas. Could you speak a little bit more in detail about the process that happens when once the requesting country and the CTCN, how does the requesting country work with the CTCN to choose the partners that will be the best fit for that country, for that technology request?
Okay, so with those 3 questions, we'll start from the right and then we'll move across to the others who want to respond to the questions. So you could please.
Okay, I think that for me there was two questions. One is that yes, indeed, how do we support the national designated entities in developing countries to actually do their job, convene the departments in the different ministries, convene the stakeholders, hear them, and then indeed come up with the good quality questions to us, as well as good proposals for climate actions from the country. And indeed, we have heard this loud and clear. Every single regional forums where I'm attending, I hear the same issue. And it has not been organized under convention yet. We know that Montreal Protocol has provided for 20 years this kind of support for their national focal points on implementation of that protocol. And we are aware that Green Climate Fund is providing some support now to all countries on readiness of their national designated authorities, which is a very important function. The CTCN's main core functions and operations, when it was given by parties to us, that means that it has been decided by the COP, it has not included clearly this kind of supporting system for national designated entities. I have to say here that also that nationally designated entities are not CTCN entities. They are indeed government entities. So in a way, to open that kind of possibility for NDs, we have maybe need to have a discussion among the parties and maybe get more guidance from the COP level so that we can do it. But we have felt very, very clearly that this is a need which has to be met and that there has to be a solution to it. The other question of the process of how we ensure that we get the best possible expertise to serve the developing country on their request. This is indeed a challenge, but we try to. That's why we have 250 institutions who have already enrolled in our network. So we first of all use some expertise in-house on preparing the terms of reference of that technical assistance. That terms of reference of technical assistance has to be agreed by the CTC, and that means me as a director, and the NDE of the country. So there, the national entity and me together will accept that this is how we go to the technical assistance process. It might include workshops, it might include senior expertise of certain areas or junior expertise. It might include all kind of tasks which are needed that this technical assistance is completed. Now, when that plan is ready, our idea is that more and more we will give it to the network members to bid. So it will be just competitive bidding based on the technical proposal, so technical level, technology and technical level, expertise level, as well as financial level. That means that we are using a bit hard system where we first look at that how that all those bidders who are beyond a certain technical ranking, then we look at their financial offers, and then the lowest bid will win. This entails that our technical assistance might not be the very best of the quality or technical expertise, but it will be most cost effective. And that is the way we do, because we need to, and let me be frank here, if there are the network members in the room, that actually I think that I read the parties' decisions on using network for the CTCN means that the network members maybe could bring their expertise to the use of the convention also pro bono and in kind. We are not looking at that everybody want to make business out of CTCN services to developing countries, because we are in the great challenge, all of us. And that's why I urge and plead to you that if you are the ones who are bidding to serve the countries through the CTCN, think about whether you would render your great expertise in different sectors and functions also with the kind of not the highest amount of compensations. So that's kind of trying to answer your question.
Is any some other responses to the questions we've got here?
Probably I would talk a bit to the issue of low-hanging fruit and high-hanging fruit. My understanding of what Elisha was saying is not to say let us do nothing about the low-hanging fruit, but we shouldn't just concentrate on that, but we should also do something about the high-hanging fruit. And it's indeed true that it's something that will take a while, but then we need to put effort into making sure that we get to those high-hanging fruits as soon as we possibly can, given the fact that they are high-hanging and indeed it takes more effort to get there. And from the technology mechanisms perspective and also working with the financial mechanism, we are already looking at one of the high-hanging fruits, which is the RD&D component of it. And if you think about it, as I said earlier on, that we need to be progressive in what we are doing as we upscale our NDCs, then also the technologies need to be upscaled also, because in order for us to be able to close that gap that Yuka showed earlier on, we need more technologies that will help us address the emissions that are resulting in that gap, and therefore research RD&D becomes a key component, but it is a high-hanging fruit that will take time. But the sooner we support that and get into that, it's one of the higher-hanging fruit that we would get to, and possibly with also information coming from party and non-party stakeholders, we can get more input on what sort of high-hanging fruits can be targeted, and then depending on, because we all have mandates within which we work, then we will look at our mandates and how we can take into consideration those higher hanging fruits to move towards it.
Yes, thank you. I think I'll just add to what Dudu mentioned on the issue of low-hanging fruits. I think if we are looking at the interventions as adaptation and mitigation, and mostly for most developing countries, there's quite a lot of focus and interest in adaptation, which for most of the developing countries is a question of life and death. And linking to, again, issues with the sustainable development goals and this year's theme of leaving no one behind, we understand that some of the high-hanging fruits, they take time and they require more resources. But if we intend to leave no one behind also in the issue of adaptation, there is maybe a need to think about some of those things which look a bit difficult and maybe time consuming or resource need more resources, but they're critical because those may be the barriers to technology deployment or transfer or development. So we may need to rethink. Otherwise, we just do the business as usual, but that will not lead to resilience or to reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Thank you.
We've got about 10 minutes more for some questions. Question for the gentleman in the middle there. Do we have the microphone available?
Yeah, I'm Andy from Nepal. My name is Ramari Panda. And
It's on. It's
yes,
speak
okay.
louder.
Okay. And what I have proposed two proposals, and both of them are accepted by the CTCN. And based on my experience, what I found there is some gap, because in some countries, like in my country, there is the GCF focal point is one ministry, and CTCN or UNFCCC focal point is one in the different ministry, in the Ministry of Environment, Population and Environment. Thus, this is the sometime it is a coordination problem. Maybe in other countries, maybe like this, how to come up to coordinate these things. This is the one problem I have seen. But another matter, the last time maybe some Andy asked about the how to support the NDEs, how to strengthen NDEs. This is again the same question. Maybe you can already give the answer, but this I think you have to work more on it in the parties meeting. Maybe we will be there or not. I'm not sure. And another thing, this we just mainly in the developing and the underdeveloped countries, our vision to find out the climate technology, maybe it will be not competent as you see from your position. Like maybe if there is any suitable climate technology, you have to intervene in the developing countries or the underdeveloped countries, so that it is the climate is everybody's business, and mainly it is the it should be get the suggestion from the developed countries who create the such a problem related to climate change. I think I put three questions. Maybe it's goes to the director. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have some other questions? Somebody over here, please. Somebody over here.
Actually, the previous speaker motivated me to comment on something. He asked me, he asked how we can support the NDCs. In my opinion, if we come back to TNA and be sure about the TAP, so we can support NDC. Am I right? For the whole and the
And then one more question from the gentleman in the front here. Very interactive passing of the microphone through the crowd.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for inviting us here. I have one single question. Yuka in forward says that this is our conference. I can say that this is our COP as NDA, is the NDA of Congo. My question is, what can we expect from Marrakesh 2006? Do we have more support from the UNFCCC, or will you put some more money for us to help us to deliver more requests, or what can we expect from now?
Okay, starting from the right again, Yuka, please.
Okay. Also, I give something to Spencer. Yes, indeed. I think that we have shared some very good experiences from NDEs from in different regions when they have told that how they coordinate in the country. And I think that the unanimous advice from this is that there has to be a national coordination on all the climate issues under the national focal point of climate. And NDEs have to be part of that coordination. That would be a really shame if it's such a big institution, which we are now already, a family of a lot of authorities would not be part of the national coordination system of the country, where NDEs would then raise exactly these issues, that how the work of NDE and exactly the support of the CTC and to the NDEs can feed into national determined contribution implementation, because the new elephant is NDCs are the new block of kit on the block. That means that they are the ones where every country should gear towards the implementation. And we exactly have the tools for helping that implementation from the technology point of view. And that has to be a central part of the country's considerations every month. I think that at least in my country, the national focal point convenes at least once a month to think about what is the next step and so on. So that is important, and I have seen very good examples of some NDs to how they have managed to join in or even create that coordination if that's still missing. On the exactly the support on NDs, that let's say how we started, it was that we realized at least that there is huge capacity needs of LDCs. So we said that, okay, let's have an incubator program for LDCs, and which we have now implemented. Then we have last time we made the decision with advisory board support that yes, we need to look at SITs, because they are the second vulnerable group of countries who need kind of instant assistance on their technology choices, both adaptation and mitigation. So we have extended that kind of support to the SITs. But it's still not yet there where I know that many countries would like to see. And maybe to respond to Congo, that the negotiations are going on this kind of further support, even through the CTC. And I have heard signals that yes, indeed, CTC is being respected by all countries and our work, and that indeed we will be supported, that our main functions and as well as technical assistance services are being supported by so many countries, and the number of those countries who are supporting us is increasing, as I know. I'm still waiting for a affirmative announcement on that, but let's say that the situation for us, in order that we are able to serve countries, is improving. But of course, as a government parties then you should also engage on looking at how the parties are negotiating on technology mechanism as a whole, and especially on how they negotiate and what kind of guidance they are now giving to CTC. And when we have submitted our report to the parties, and parties are now considering that report and giving us more guidance, as well as thinking about the new technology framework, which is coming in, and it's also going to supervise the technology mechanism, especially tech and the CTC. And so there is still a negotiation process going on where you can have an input.
Thank you. Well, I think the director gave the official line on this question. So I think I will give the provocative and maybe personal reflection on this. The Green Climate Fund, $1 million institutional strengthening of the NDA, of which a portion of that $1 million is allocated to that. For many developing countries, it is my view that you cannot strengthen the NDA without at the same time strengthening the NDE, because the NDA and the NDE should, in many cases, work together, especially where technologies are concerned. So that is my line, and I think we need to look when we doing the application of the readiness funds. We need to look at how we define NDA strengthening to include a broader aspects of a broader scope, so that it takes in other focal points that are necessary for the NDA to do an effective job.
Thank you. Just to talk on the TNA and on the TNA tab and implementation issue. Yeah, we may recall that previously we parties were developing we're working on their TNAs, and then there was a concern that the TNAs were just sitting on the shelf, and there were all issues about how they were coming out as wish lists, and that were difficult for financiers to take into consideration and take forward. And as a result, that is when we then moved towards updating the guidance so that we come up with technology action plans that are now something that can have a better consideration for financiers, that is more financeable. And if we move in that direction, it means we now have documents that are closer to being implementable. But implementation means having the support, which is now including the financial support to do that implementation. And technology implementation is not just a means to it, it's just not an end to itself, but you implement you implement that technology development and transfer as part of implementing either your adaptation or mitigation, or in some instances both. And as a result, if you do that, then it will implement also your INDC, but if and only if you have worked on them in a way that they are complementary to each other. Yuka has been saying, he was even saying that in another side event that we're having yesterday, that NDCs are the new elephant in the house, and we all need to sort of work towards moving that elephant in the right direction. And if you now have your TNA process such that it's complementary to your NDC, then when you implement your the action plans, which is the technology action plans, you are in essence implementing your NDCs. And I think in Elisha's presentation, he showed that when they did their TNAs, it's also they were considering all these other documents, including the TNAs and so on, to come up with the NDC. And also we have had also in other side events other examples of countries that have had the same scenario, whereby they were looking at these documents together, the TNAs when formulating their NDCs. And once you do it that way, then it gives you a broader picture, and it also supports sustainable development. And then you can say you have implemented your both your TNA and NDC at the same time once you have the tab implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Dudu. And we'll close it there, because if you have further questions, please come forward after the side event. I'd ask you to bring your hands together again for the speakers that we've had today.
This is for the NDEs in the room that we are trying to convene a kind of Friends of CTC and a more informal gathering tomorrow, I think 7:30, 6:30 in the Aita Pavilion, which is next to the entrance, just to have an informal discussion still on those issues which are not been sorted here in this meeting. Please welcome.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
In my defense, I agree totally with you. I was trying to get those guys to give more money so both boats can be at there.
Yeah,
in time.
In time, yeah.
Because I don't think they're giving enough. We're looking for 1.5, and they might only 2 degrees.
Especially right now, even the 2 degree is far off, because the analysis is yeah, it's over 3.
We can't, we need the low bargain, and we need everything,
Yeah, we need
and
everything.
quickly.
Yeah, quickly.
How can I